When I first heard about Real Doll and watched a few of your other interviews, it made a lot of sense that the companionship piece would be the biggest thing you could solve for someone who has trouble connecting with other people, or maybe they have a disability or something that renders them kind of, too low in the sexual marketplace to connect with someone on that level. And certainly a robot that can act and derive the same sort of emotions similar to a human, that could be better for a lot of guys, right? I don't know. Did you ever see the Bill Burr bit when he's talking about the blow up dolls versus the one day humanoid robots? He's like,
Yeah,
why would a guy ever go for a normal girl when he could walk in and she'd have the dinner ready and would be there for other
right.
stuff.
Well, it's very true. And, I think that I have four sons, who are young adults and, between the ages of 19 and 24. And, they grew up with smartphones in their hand. They grew up with, video screens in front of their faces, playing online games. And, certainly at the time, I didn't think about the ramifications. I was like, oh, they're connecting with their buddies all over the world. And I think that a lot of those connections are hollow and a little bit different. And so as a result, I think that today's young men, on top of it, coupled with some of the other social movements that you see happening with, and women are not as approachable as they used to be.
For
I
sure.
think that young men are super intimidated. They don't want to say the wrong thing. They don't want a girl to go, "Oh, you're nasty," or
There's that ick
you're
factor.
bugging me. Well, just the whole is like Me Too
Right.
thing, and it creates a lot of anxiety in a situation that was already riddled with anxiety. I mean, it's super hard to walk up to a stranger, a girl you find to be attractive, and go, "Hi, my name is," that is a very hard thing to do. And now it's even
That's
harder.
literally what I've been teaching my clients for the past 15 years. And I've approached over, 5,000 women doing just that. And it's as we get further and further along, it's more ineffective because, that was when I first started doing it in, 2005, 2006. There weren't any dating apps, and that was okay, right? People go to the bars to meet. But now it's like if you approach a woman on the street, you got to be really funny. You have to have really good game.
It would be a benefit to this person to meet me and interact with me. And I think, just like in the animal world, people sense that inhibition, they sense that anxiety that a lot of people have. And it takes years and years to develop that type of confidence. I had a friend growing up who, he was very average looking. He was smart and funny, and he would say a lot of stuff. But I just watched this guy. He literally would approach every girl that he saw throughout the day, 10, 20, 30, however many it may be, and 90% of them would shoot him down immediately, and he would just shake it off and move on. And so by volume, the guy always had girls lined up. He just figured it out. He was like, well, all right, 9 out of 10 of them are going to say no. And every once in a while, all of a sudden, he would be this super beautiful girl, and he'd be introducing her. We're all like, holy shit, how did he do that? And it's just his approach was he didn't care, if they were like, oh, I'm engaged, or I'm in a relationship, or I'm not interested, or no, you can't have my number. How bad is that really? And I think we forgot how to do that. As a species, we have forgotten how to take that risk and how to just go, hey, and it's funny, given the line of work that I'm in and my professional history, gives me a different kind of insight, because you're right. A lot of people don't like they're not cut out for deeply connecting with other humans. And that can be because they've been through some kind of traumatic event. It could be because they have these super high expectations. It could be because they have gone through some horrible, physical trauma. But there are, a plethora of reasons why a man or young man somewhere could say, this robot is perfect for me. And
Yeah.
at the end of the day, if that relationship or that simulation of a relationship makes him happy and brings joy to his life, who cares then? Like who are we as any other human to judge and go, oh, what a weirdo, and that's really kind of for me, like, I get a little defensive because I've been doing this for a long time, and when I hear people kind of have this very stereotypical idea of what a person who would have a doll or who would buy, a robot that's anatomically correct, that's weird, or even think of such a thing. They don't understand the other side of it. Like, there are reasons, and really, like I said, it's not hurting anybody else. I mean, largely this is probably something that occurs in this person's, private space. They're not hurting you, they're not bugging you, and if they're happy, leave them alone. Which is it's a lot more of a private thing than a lot of stuff I can think about, that's in the public space, where, if someone has like some kind of, kink that they're walking around and flaunting around, that's considered taboo. But they, part of their kink is that they want to be out in public and they want to be walking around. That stuff is going to impact you more than some guy with a doll or robot in his house.